Hi everybody, this is Michelle with the Clumsy Crafter. Hey, I got a lot going on here today. I have to make 32 little gifts that we give out. I think I told you in a previous video about the clay convention that I go to every year in Indianapolis. And I've got the things that I'm making, which are these purse charms. We give, each person does gifts for everybody. So there's 32 of us this year. And so I'm making 32 of these little purse charms. And the clay part that I've done is in the center of these little charms. And then some of them are going to have things dangling from them that I've made of clay as well. So here's some of the things. I made these out of clay and these and some other things. Right now I'm going to be finishing the backs of these clay things that I've made. And I'll show you a way of finishing the backs if you want that I got from Clay Boutique on YouTube. It's Deborah is her name, Clay Boutique. And what she does, which is really pretty fun, is she takes UV resin and she mixes it with glitter. And then she just spreads it across the back. I'm going to be spreading it across the back here with just a skewer. And then she just cures it with a combination of resin and glitter on the back. It's actually quite beautiful. I'll show you. We'll do one right here and we'll see if we can make this work. So you just put some resin in here. And then I'm going to do purple glitter on this one. And then we just put a little bit of glitter in it. And she does it right on the back of the piece. We'll put a little glitter in there. At the same time that we're doing this, I'm going to talk to you about some interesting things that I've had happen in the course of my career with marriage situations. Sometimes, a couple of times in my career, I've had people come to me and say that they were having an affair on their spouse and that they feel like they have to leave their spouse and go with the person that they're having the affair with. And they're stressed out and don't know what to do. And I'll tell you a little bit about marriage counseling as a therapist. There's 3 situations under which couples come to a therapist. And a therapist has to kind of determine what's the situation that these people are coming to you for. The first situation is that they've already decided that they're getting divorced, but to make their families feel like they've done everything, they have to show that they've gone to counseling. And you see them once, maybe twice. They don't really work at all when they're in there in counseling. And you can tell as a therapist that they're not really there to work on their marriage. It's not a very encouraging kind of session to be in as a therapist. And you see them once or twice and then they're gone. The second kind is where somebody is having an affair and they're trying to convince their partner that they're not having an affair. And the partner can clearly sense that something has changed. And their partner is trying to convince them that nothing has changed and that they're completely wrong. And, you know, people have an intuitive sense of their partner after being with them for several years, of their habits, of things like that. And often they know when something's changed. They just know. And so they know they're right, but they're being what we call gaslighted. Gaslighted means where the truth is exactly what the partner thinks it is, that something has changed, but their partner is trying to convince them that they're wrong. And that's called gaslighting, where you're trying to be convinced that what you feel is reality is not reality. And those couples don't come for very long either. Now, the third kind of couple that comes in for counseling is, of course, the couple who actually wants to improve their marriage. And so people who do couples counseling only, so there are some therapists who only do couples counseling, and to kind of make sure that they get the third kind of couples, the ones who actually want counseling, they'll ask for a large deposit up front. Like they'll say, you're going to pay for the first 12 sessions. I'd like a $1,200 deposit. That'll pay for your first 12 sessions. And then they offer maybe a refund if it doesn't take 12 sessions to repair their marriage. And they'll do things like that to make sure that the person who's coming for couples counseling is actually coming to repair their marriage. And people who do couples counseling for a living, and that's all they do, will do it in this kind of way so that they can weed out the other two kind of couples and really have the opportunity to work with couples who honestly want to repair their marriages. But back to this kind of couple, or these people that have come into my office and said, oh, I need to leave my spouse and I don't know how to tell her. And here's how I've handled that is I help them to understand a few things about exactly what your marriage provides for you that even makes an affair possible. Because there's something that happens in all relationships when you first meet someone. So if you're dating, I want you to know about this. When you first meet someone, the brain has a way of bonding with someone else, and it's kind of intense. It feels almost like a drug when it happens, and it'll be really intense, and all you can see is the good in someone else, and that's really kind of normal for that to happen. And so really all you see is the best in someone for about the first 6 months. All you see is their good qualities. And then after that, because we're all a combination of strengths and weaknesses, people's weaknesses will start to show up. And so it's really best to kind of let a relationship gel, because that first 6 months is really a lot of fun. And your relationships will never be as intense as that ever again. In fact, it's kind of fun to keep a journal or keep track of all your text messages and stuff during that first 6 month period, because it will never be that intense again. And it's fun to keep track of what happened during that time period so that you kind of you can look back on it with fondness, because it will never feel quite like that again. It deepens and becomes something more mature later, because now you know this person inside and out for their strengths and their weaknesses, but it'll never quite be as intense again as it was in that first 6 months. So just know that happens, but then the weaknesses start to show up, and this is where red flags will start to show up, and that's after about that 5 to 6 months period. In the first, everybody ignores them. But when they start to show up, this is where people need to have the courage to let go. And many people don't have the courage to let go, or they don't let go when they need to in that second 6 month period if red flags show up. Because red flags just mean that this person isn't right for you. Doesn't mean they're a bad person. It just means they may not be the right person for you. And so in that second 6 month period, people's weaknesses will start to show up in their personalities. And that's okay. That doesn't mean that they're a bad person. Everybody has strengths and weaknesses. It just means there's a lot of conversation that needs to take place. Don't move in with someone until after a year has gone by, because you need time during that time when the weaknesses show up, where people need to be able to take a minute, take a breather, be away from someone, not living in the same home. In fact, if you push a relationship too fast, it'll explode. And it'll explode every time. And so it's really important not to move in with someone, not to get pregnant, not to have babies, all that kind of stuff until you've known each other for a year. Oh, looks like that one's broken. Oh well, whatever. It doesn't need to have a stem. Anyway, so the thing is what I was saying is that people don't realize what their marriages is providing. Because what happens is, there's a really great book by Harville Hendrix called His Needs, Her Needs. See, look at that in the back there. Isn't that beautiful? It looks so much better on the back of something to have this cool glitter finish off the back. I just think that's beautiful. Anyway, Harville Hendricks has a book called His Needs, Her Needs, and he says that there's kind of 10 things that a marriage provides for us. And we don't usually get all 10. We might get 7 or 8 of them. And the things that are missing become kind of big in our mind, you know? And because the things that are missing can become big in our mind, sometimes we think that they're horrible, and we'll seek out sometimes to find those things that are missing. And it might be just one thing or 2 things, and you might find that in someone else. But the other 8 things are being provided at home by your spouse. And so people will leave their marriages for somebody that they've found on the side, not realizing that that person has only provided 1 or 2 of the 10 things that people need in a relationship. And I'm going to tell you what those 10 things are, but you can find it and more explanation about it than I'm going to give you today in the book, His Needs, Her Needs. And I'm going to always refer to like books and things. I'm an avid reader, and I like to be able to tell my clients that what I give them is based on research. But the 10 things are, the first one is admiration. And I love this about my husband, is he just admires me a lot. And we went to Tucson to a bead show last year, 2024. It was in February, and we met a group of people that I had been communicating with online, and he was just talking me up because I was really kind of quiet around these people because I'm much more of a listener. That's just my role I've always taken. And we were at dinner with all these people, and he just started talking me up, and all of a sudden everybody's asking me questions and stuff about things just related to jewelry and everything, because he had just talked me up so much. Anyway, so admiration is one of the things that our marriage provides for us. The second thing is affection. That affection is an important one. Now, some people I know live without affection because they maybe their partner grew up in a home where affection wasn't a thing. And so affection becomes something that they look for outside of their marriage. And, like I said, you don't get all 10. You only get maybe 7 or 8 of the 10. And so sometimes people end up looking for that outside of their marriage. The third one is intimate conversation. And this is just those times where you guys have your own private jokes and things like that because you just know each other so well, and so those are those intimate moments that you get to have with a partner because they know you just that well. Oh man, I broke another one of those off. Anyway, and then another one is, domestic support, just meaning that, all the things that you do around the home and things like that, having somebody to support you in all of that is really kind of important because it's exhausting. It's just exhausting to run a household. And I was a single mom for about 10 years of my young life in my 30s. And it is absolutely exhausting just to be the only one taking care of everything that has to be done to support a household with children and stuff. So you get domestic support from a partner. Another one is, let me think about this, family commitment, because oftentimes your extended family is all part of your whole family group. And so you have not just yourself and your family, but you've got extended family as well. And so you've got this extended family support. And another one is, of course, financial support, because oftentimes there's 2 of you. Now, that's not always true, but at least if you've got somebody who's a stay-at-home parent, then there's somebody who's taking care of a lot of the things at home so that someone else can work. And that's where everybody works together in that. Like maybe somebody's working at home to save money or different things like that. And so it's a joint effort with that. Another one is, of course, physical attractiveness. Now, I know people who are married to somebody that they're not particularly physically attracted to. I've heard that before in my office, but there's so many other things in the marriage that are important to them that they don't really care. And so they prefer to live in a marriage that's not particularly physically attractive because there are many other things about the marriage that are important to them. And so it's not necessarily always something that people have. Recreational companionship, and that just means that somebody to go on a walk with and hold hands with, and just if you want to go to the gym, you guys can go together, or just somebody to go play pickleball with, or all those things where recreation and having somebody that you can go with to do things with, to go to a movie, things like that. Recreational companionship is really important. And then also, of course, sexual fulfillment. Now, not every marriage has sexual fulfillment. So not recently, but like years ago, I had a client that came to me and he was having an affair, and he was telling me that he needed to tell his wife, and it was time for him to leave his marriage, but he'd been married for, 30 years or something. And he didn't know how he was going to tell his wife, and he didn't know if he wanted to. And he was just stressed out because he was just sure he'd found this wonderful woman. And because his marriage hadn't had a lot of sexual fulfillment. And he felt that it was his fault it hadn't had a lot of sexual fulfillment, that he was the one who had a lot of sexual prowess, but that he'd met a woman who had taught him a lot. And in teaching him a lot, he had become more sexually proficient, and he felt like he was much more sexually attractive to her and sexually adventurous with her. And he just felt like he had more sexual fulfillment with this other woman, and that he wanted to leave his marriage for her. And he'd only known her for a couple of months or a few months. And I was encouraging him to just wait, because I knew about this syndrome of what the brain does. He didn't know her weaknesses yet. And he had said a few things that led me to believe that those weaknesses were going to show up, because I could hear the red flags as he told me about her that were coming, because I suspected she had a personality disorder. And I encouraged him to just wait, because he's talking about how he's going to get divorced, and I'm talking about giving up half of his assets. And this is a pretty wealthy guy. And he's talking about this, and I'm talking about how that would be pretty hard on him. And as time went by, more and more things, as I asked him to please don't rush it, just wait and give it some time. Make sure that he wants to, because he was going to visit his son. They had one child, maybe two, but I know they had a son, and they were going to go visit their son. And I was talking to him about, are you willing to, they have grown children. Are you willing to give up what grandparenthood would be like for you? Because it would be very different. And helping him to understand these 10 things, the things he already had at home, And at one point, I guess his wife had Googled or something the changes in his behavior, and said to him, I Googled some things that have changed about you, and according to Google, you're having an affair. And so she had Googled it, or ChatGPT or something like that. And anyway, the internet had told her that was what was going on. And she came to him and said, I think this is what's going on. And he said, oh, I'm sorry, I've been gone too much. I'm sorry. I'm just hanging out with friends, but I'll stop. And so he stopped what he was doing and came in later to tell me that I'd been right, that a bunch of red flags had showed up with this other girl, even though that isn't what I had said. I just told him to wait to see if any had showed up, because I never tell somebody what to do. I try to let them come to their own conclusions. And, he said that some red flags had shown up, and that some of the things that she told him about, don't talk to this person because they're going to tell you things I don't want you to listen to and stuff like that. And those were red flags. And so he was able to make a decision to stay in his marriage and just stop the affair. And some of the things that he felt had made him an unsuccessful lover, he felt like had been fixed by this brief affair. And he was having actually a more fulfilling sexual life with his wife. And so maybe that was a good thing for them. Who knows? But anyway, so, just kind of keep in mind those 10 things that, and maybe you don't have all of them, but if you have the maybe 2 or 3 that are missing, think of the other 7 or 8 that are there, and try to focus your mind and attention on the ones that are there, because that's the thing that is going to keep your marriage together. Marriage is a lot about focusing on what we have and trying to emphasize that. We'll talk a little more about that in other episodes here. So this is what I've done so far with trying to finish the back of my polymer clay stuff that I'm doing right here. Just trying to finish these 32 things I'm making here, purse charms. But yeah, this is just some examples of what I'm doing here today. So hopefully, what I did is I put little canes and veneers that I had in the middle here of these dragonflies, and then I baked them in, and then I put other charms on there. And I used up all the old canes I had. I had some that looked like zebra. I had some that looked kind of like this. I had some that looked like this, and I used them all and put them in the center of these dragonflies, and then baked them in. And I'm making 32 purse charms for my polymer clay convention. So then I'm going to put this in the UV lamp, and then I'm going to just continue to finish these 32 purse charms that are going to look something like these right here. And for my clay convention, I'm going to the first week of April. If you guys didn't have a chance to sign up, I think I talked about this in a previous episode. It's already sold out now. She's not taking any more, but it's tinypandora.com, Teresa Salgado. And if you want to go on her website, she's got some really cool stuff there for polymer clay. So if you're interested in getting involved in polymer clay, Teresa Salgado is the one that has the polymer clay convention in Indianapolis every year. So that's what I have to talk to you about today, is that book with Harville Hendrix, His Needs, Her Needs, and kind of keeping that in mind if you're tempted to go outside your relationship, to understand why you're tempted to do that, and to think about the things that you already have within the relationship to keep you from wanting to do that. And hopefully that's helpful. Okay, that's it for today. Clumsy Crafter. Oh, and something that I always forget to mention. Will you guys please like and subscribe, because I'm really anxious to see where this goes so that I can continue to do more. And thank you for those of you who are giving me all the words of encouragement. Thank you so much. That's just been so wonderful to hear your words of encouragement. And I'll keep going. Thank you. Bye-bye.